This month, we're highlighting an incredible new graphic novel from New York Times bestselling author and 15-time Grammy Award-winning artist, Alicia Keys, about a young girl who finds her inner strength, some pretty awesome superpowers, to change the world for the better. Girl on Fire, from HarperCollins Books, one of Zenescope's new partners, was co-authored by film producer and longtime writer Andrew Weiner. Andrew stopped by recently to give us all the details about this incredible story, working with Alicia Keys and the evolution of Lolo's journey, Girl on Fire. First of all, I want to welcome Andrew Weiner to Everything Zen. Andrew, we're so glad to have you with us.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Before we get into the thick of it with Girl on Fire, I wanted to ask you about your background as a writer, specifically where you're from and how you got started writing creatively.
I grew up in Washington, D.C., and I started out in the film business. My parents make documentaries. They made environmental documentaries, and so at a young age, we went all over the world. My sister and myself, we kind of got dragged around with the luggage.
Is that fun for you?
It was amazing. I was at 8, I was in India. At 5, I was in El Salvador. Most of the time I was in Washington, D.C. So anyway, after school, I went straight into the film business and produced movies for several years and also wrote screenplays, and then pivoted to, I'm producing a film right now, but I really fell in love with graphic novels, which brings me to you.
Were you always into comics and superheroes as a kid?
Yeah, I think most kids were, at least, back in the day, like growing up in the 80s, reading comic books. I loved Marvel and DC Comics. And then I rediscovered them probably when I was like in my early 20s. There were a few books I read that just kind of like transformed the way I think about the medium as something that is also meant for adults. Because I think for a long time you think about comics, at least for me, that's something you enjoy as a kid, and then move on. And then I read Stray Bullets and Ghost World, and I thought Ghost World was just amazing.
Girl on Fire is an incredible graphic novel that you co-wrote with 15-time Grammy-winning singer-songwriter-producer Alicia Keys. In fact, you can't even really mention the book without her song getting stuck in your head. So for me, the thought of working with someone who is so inspiring with an insane catalog of great songs is just mind-blowing. How did the two of you connect and start conceptualizing this story?
Okay, yeah, good question. By the way, you could just say that two of us combined have 15 Grammy Awards.
I will go back into the edit room and clean that part up.
Her with 15 and counting, and I'm still sitting on 0, and I'll stay there. We were introduced. I met her then film producing partner Susan Lewis at a party, and we just hit it off. And I think maybe she'd seen some of the work I'd done, and I told her what I was doing, the idea of like starting this business up, and she thought that Alicia and I would make a good book together. That's the short version. And I spent time with Susan and Alicia, just sort of like, I guess, getting to know each other a little bit and talking about things we cared about creatively and personally. And I think when things clicked, I really wanted to work with Alicia because she's extraordinary. I love the music. I didn't know her prior. And I think when things clicked is when she said, first and foremost, it has to be entertaining. Because I think at that point I was just thinking because what does Alicia, what's important to her? What will resonate with her? And then when she was like, and the answer is a lot of things, but when she said it just has to be fun and entertaining first and foremost, like that sort of speaks my language. Like if you don't have that, it really just doesn't matter. And so like she cares deeply about representation. She's like she's obviously a champion of women and girls, but if the story is not a fantastic story, that doesn't matter. So anything that resonates with her personally is just organic to the storytelling. But it isn't like, let's push this into here. At no point was she like, let's make sure this, resonates with women, because it just will if she's telling the story. And I think it does.
For those hearing about this graphic novel for the first time, this is your elevator pitch. What is Girl on Fire about, and why should listeners pick up a copy?
Alicia would be so good in this situation. I've heard her talk about this book, and she's just amazing. And your listeners are stuck with me. The main character, her name is Lolo Wright. She's on the cusp of 15 years old. She's from Brooklyn housing projects, and she's a smart, normal kid. She's kind of flying below the radar. She's a little quiet. She's got an older brother, James, who is stuck in the same school in the same grade as her. They're pretty close in age. And there's an inciting incident. James is mistaken for a robber, and he winds up in a really dangerous situation with the police. And Lolo, in this moment, out of anger, desperation, this is her origin story. She has these powers inside of her that she didn't know she had, and they explode. And that's our starting off point for this story.
And that's a good segue into my next question, because that pivotal moment where Lolo's powers come to fruition, George Floyd instantly comes to mind. And I was curious, was that experience the lightning bolt that kickstarted the idea for the entire story, or was it more the idea was about this young girl finding her voice and connecting with Alicia's song more of the launching pad?
The song I think the song's sort of the North Star of the book. It's not it's obviously it's not a straight adaptation. The song is like just 3 minutes of like just perfection. But it's not like a linear story that we've, translated to, but it's sort of like I think, and I've never talked to Alicia about like specifically what does this song mean to you. And I think for her, and maybe I'm making assumptions, but I think for her, it's what the song means to you, the listener. So it means something different for me than it means for you, but it's just such a powerful song. And I think that the song is full of it's full of yearning. There's a little bit of sadness to it, but it's also got a hell of a lot of hope, and it's aspirational. I mean, that's like also like Brittany Williams, our illustrator, who's just incredible. Like that's her, like before this, like that was her like jam, that's like the, like, Get Up and Ghost, and like one of mine too. But the issues like with George Floyd, it certainly, like, there's a nod to that. There is a nod to that in the beginning. Absolutely.
Do you have a favorite moment from the story?
I have a few moments that resonate. There's a character, Runt, who is besides Lolo, who's the hero. He's probably my favorite character. He's a shorty, and he's had a very tough life, and I'm trying to articulate this without giving too much away and without starting to cry, because I love the character, and he goes through such a tough time, and he's really pulled in a really dark direction. And Lolo latches onto this kid and just won't let go. And Runt basically is like, I don't know you. I don't know who you are. And Lola says that's not true. And she reminds him that they played together when they were little kids, like kindergarten. And he kind of blows it off. And then later on, he tells her that it's his favorite memories of his whole life. And it's also connected to his brother that died. So it's painful, but he's able to sort of get a little choked up. He's able to express it. And I think by doing that, it's sort of like, it kind of centers his moral compass a little bit and sort of kind of rights the ship, hopefully. You know, it's still, there's still more to be told.
I'm glad you said there's still more to be told, because without spoiling the ending, I have to say that the characters are so interesting and there are enough loose ends that, you know, warrant a sequel or an entire series of graphic novels featuring Lolo and her family and friends. Are there any plans or discussions to do more?
Alicia FaceTimed me last week, and which she just took a few moments because the book had just come out, and she wanted to say hey and celebrate for a second. And I said, you know, Alicia, we should talk about ideas for book 2. And she said, good, because I want to do another one and another one and another one and another one. So that's what I'll leave you with in terms of any future plans.
Well, Andrew, thank you so much for sharing your experiences and co-authoring Girl on Fire. Also, congratulations on sharing those 15 Grammys.
Yes, it was a lot of work. No, thank you very much. I don't know, I'm just really, really blessed to have been a part of this book and to have been able to work with Alicia, with Britt, and everyone else in this team. And I'm happy for my contributions, but I'm really proud of the work that everybody did, and I hope people will give this book a shot.
Thanks again to Andrew and HarperCollins. Girl on Fire is available on newsstands, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, and AliciaKeysOfficial.com right now.